There's nothing like cracking that cellophane and pulling that record out. It just smells great.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Non-stop hardcore energy.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Unlike any other.
With your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bod Father.
Man, this stuff rocks.
The views and opinions of the guests do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Hour, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Hey, what's up? This is Matt Harvey from Exhumed and Gruesome, and of course, several other projects that we won't get into here because you are here watching BODS Mayhem Hour, and that's the important thing. So sit back, strap in, and enjoy.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I'm your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bod Father, and as always, I'm bringing you guys and gals awesome interviews. Today, it's an honor and a huge privilege to welcome Matt Harvey, who is Exhumed's guitarist and vocalist. He has released his new solo EP entitled Toward the Cold Light. Matt is best known for his work in Death Grind outfit Exhumed, as well as his other projects like Thrashtastic, Decapitator, and Scarecrow, death-defying homage act Gruesome, and his traditional metal outfit Pounder, as well as playing with extreme metal legacy acts like Death Revival act, Left to Die, and Repulsion. So we got Matt on here. First time having him on here. So Matt, welcome to the podcast. And how you doing, my man?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you for having me. I feel like you read my whole resume.
Kind of makes it feel like stalking, It's like, oh God.
I was exhausted just hearing it. Like, fuck.
Oh yeah. Oh, take a break.
Please.
So when did you decide to start releasing your own music? Were you a little nervous at all? I mean, you've done this for years with a band, but I mean, you yourself though doing it.
I guess it's one of those things where I've always liked other kinds of music and always sort of thought about, boy, I'd like to do something. But for years and years, it didn't really go any further than that. It's really been since the pandemic, when it was like, you remember that whole thing where it's like, oh, learn a new skill or whatever. And I'd just been kind of like writing these little themes and melodies for a few years before, but I started trying to work on actually like producing them into something listenable, which is quite a learning curve. So really it's been since then that I guess I've seriously been trying to just, compose stuff that is, has nothing to do with rock or metal. And, get the production skills to whip it into shape to where it's, presentable.
We've been out of the COVID era for at least 2 years now at the most. Right. So, and I'm still anxious and curious to see, are we really going to see all that music that was stored back in that? Or is people really going to be like, no, we need a fresh start? You know what I'm saying?
Or people will be like, I just thought it was good because I hadn't left my house in 3 months. Now that I listen to it, it sucks.
Yeah. I mean, I had people in here saying, we got enough for 3 to 4 albums. Put that shit out. Let's go.
Right. Well, this stuff was all written after the pandemic, but
yeah,
just in terms of getting the skill set to put it together, production wise and engineering wise, that all started. I certainly was not, I don't think you're ever done, but I wasn't anywhere near the level that I am now during the pandemic. So, I'm always trying to learn and to, expand and challenge myself so I don't get bored,
Was it a priority to make your solo EP not sound like Exhumed? Because I know a lot of bands, they put stuff out, each musician are like, well, that just sounds like your band that you're in. I mean, how was it a priority not to sound like that?
I mean, this EP is so far away from it that it really, there was no overlap, in that Venn diagram, whereas like maybe Gruesome and Exhumed is kind of a little bit of overlap. But it's really important to me that everything that I do has its own identity and its own reason for being a thing. And, I try to, with my metal bands, I try to have like a very specific sort of approach with each one so that, you don't hear a Gruesome record and think like, oh, this could have been Exhumed or vice versa, and even like my thrash bands, like Scarecrow was very much like a sort of Bay Area new wave of British heavy metal influenced thrash band, and Decapitator was much more like a German, Sodom protector, destruction, early creator kind of thing. So, I think it's really important that everything that you do should be able to stand on its own thing, and don't just don't just throw stuff out under whatever banner. I think that if you're going to do multiple things, you really need to keep it respectable for the audience, because I don't want people to feel like, oh, this is just leftover tracks, or this is just more of the same kind of thing.
Mhm.
I think it's important to respect the audience like that.
How excited are you to finally release this EP and just get it out and be done with it?
I'm very excited because most of this stuff was written like early in 2023, and then produced, kind of through the spring. So I've been sitting on these songs for a long time, and I got them mastered last fall, and I still wasn't quite sure what to do with it. And I finally was like, fuck it. Let's just put it out, because if I keep overthinking it, nothing will ever happen. And, it's one of those things where on one hand, I'm proud of the record. I think it's, something that I want to share with people. And on the other hand, it's also like just this thing sort of sitting there, like giving me that feeling, that unfinished, it's like the dishes in the sink or whatever. It's like, no, just do it. And then it's done. And then, it's a thing rather than something that you're going to keep tinkering with or whatever,
Yeah, it's like looking back and somebody's watching. It's like, I know you're there. I will get to you when
Totally.
So this is a collection of songs inspired by cold, misty, damp mornings outside and being alone with your thoughts in quiet moments. So let's talk about that, man. When did you start getting inspired by that to see some stuff start to kick up for you?
I think the inspiration has been there for a long time, but the vehicle to put it together into a thing was really like the beginning of last year. At the time, my wife she had a job where she was working really early, which meant that I was also getting up early. As anyone who's married will tell you, it's like, oh, your spouse is doing something. Well, I guess you're doing it too. And so we have two dogs. They're very much morning people as well. And so I would be up, kind of like right around sunrise or a little bit before sunrise. And we live pretty close to the coast, so we get a lot of fog rolling in, a lot of mist in the mornings, especially when it's cold and damp. And so, for a couple months, it was like every morning I would spend, 30 to 45 minutes outside. I live in California, so it's not like I'm freezing my ass off, but it's not, it's not balmy. You're not ready to go surfing in that weather. And where I live, it's very rural. There's a lot of trees and hills and shit. So it's not day, it's not night, there's mist everywhere and there's trees and stuff. So just kind of like, I don't know, the music on the record is very much that vibe, at least my take on that, or how I experienced that vibe. So, and obviously you're out there just, I talk to my dogs, but I don't like, tell them my innermost thoughts. I tell them like, please don't pee on the flowers, the neighbor's going to get pissed or whatever. So it's a lot of time to just sort of reflect and that's kind of I think what the record sounds like, or hopefully what it sounds like,
Did these new songs turn out exactly the way you wanted them to, Matt?
I mean, pretty fucking close. I don't know that anything ever turns out exactly the way you want it to. And even if it is exactly the way you want it, when you finish it, you can go back, months later and be like, oh, I should have done this, or if only it was a little bit more like this, I kind of, I don't know. I sort of reject the concept of, perfection or satisfaction, because I mean, it's that sort of means that it's an end point, which I don't really, I see everything as sort of being continuous experience. So I am very happy with them is the short answer. I don't know. So some of them I thought, even in the writing process, I thought we're going to go one way and then sort of ended up kind of going in a different direction, which is fun. But but yeah, I mean, I'm happy with how they came out. I mean, exactly how I wanted to, I don't know. They came out exactly as they are, and I like how they are.
How's the feedback been on the release of this new EP, man, for you?
It's been cool. It's something that I released myself, so it's obviously not as big and splashy of a promo campaign as like a new Exhumed record or whatever. But the feedback has been really cool, and some people that I haven't kept in touch with that much kind of hit me out of the blue, like, hey, I actually took a moment to listen to this and I really liked it, and some people are really surprised by it, which is kind of nice, just to be able to pull off something that people were like, didn't expect it, but I really liked it. Like that's a nice feeling. So it's been good so far. And I think the way that I've tried to let people know about it makes it so clear that this is not a metal album. It's certainly not a death metal album. It's not even a rock album. So I've tried to set expectations. Like, you think, oh, I like, Decapitator or whatever. It's like, well, that doesn't mean you're going to like this record. It has nothing whatsoever to fucking do with any of it,
I like the instrumental stuff on it. I'm a big horror guy, and it's got a lot of that vibe to it. I love it. Speaking of that, are you still experimenting with your sound? Is this something that you want to keep evolving on to make every EP or whatever you put out sound totally different than the last one?
I definitely am going to be exploring some more different kinds of stuff. I have another thing that is very close to being done. I keep thinking like, okay, I'm done. And then I'm like, wait, no, got another idea, because, I'm just doing this for myself. So it's like, it's not like there's a deadline or, I got my own fucking recording studio. There's no budget. Like, I'm just here, working until I'm done or whatever. But I am going to just sort of keep releasing stuff and, kind of just be as just whatever I kind of feel like. And, some people might like some stuff and not like others. And, some people might not like any of it and just want to listen to metal. I don't know, but I just want to keep exploring, and I've been learning, like I said, since the pandemic, as far as composition and production and everything, and learning. I feel like I've I keep sort of growing and be like, whoa, I'm so much better at this than I was a year ago or whatever. And I can't help but want to share this stuff with people. And so it's going to just continue on, and some stuff might be similar and some stuff might be completely different, and I'm just going to do what feels good to me.
So what's that growth musically you've seen from yourself working on this new EP versus 2021's synthy sci-fi instrumental album Last Son of Krypton that impresses you the most moving forward with more releases, or maybe just learning more stuff, the producing side of it?
When I did my first solo record, I kind of didn't really realize how much I was biting off. There was 4 different skill sets that I had to sort of learn. And some of them I was better at than others. And, the production side, especially, I think has gotten a lot better, because I want to make, they would be called, I guess, orchestral mock-ups or whatever, if I was doing it for film or TV or whatever. But I want to make stuff that sounds convincing and sounds compelling and sounds, realistic, rather than leaning on stuff that's more synth oriented. Because as much as I like synth music, I love Brian Eno and I like some synthwave stuff and everything else. I'm much more interested in something that sounds organic, or being able to mix stuff that sounds organic with stuff that is clearly synthy, which is a lot of what this EP really is,
But it sounds authentic, and I mean to say that, I really mean that. It's authentic. When something's just put together and hashed out and put out there, that you've been in this for years. But this is authentic. I like the groove to every bit of this, man. It could be a soundtrack for a movie. I mean, honestly.
Well, cool. Thank you. Thanks. I mean, it's sort of, I guess I was thinking when I was starting it, it was going to be a little bit more sort of ambient, because I do listen to a lot of ambient music, but I think my tendency is more towards something that's a little bit more, that has a little bit more of like a narrative sense, or like a sense of movement, which kind of pushes it closer to something that is like soundtracky or whatever. And obviously I'm not writing to picture or anything. I'm just like, I'm just sitting in a room by myself. So, it's just sort of the pace that I'm feeling. And it's, I guess I'm too, I got too many ideas bouncing around to just make it completely like languid, like something that would be what I would truly consider like ambient,
I'm a paranormal guy. I make paranormal videos when we go to these locations. I would honestly use some of that in the background. I really would. That's no shit.
That's awesome. I think that actually was a like pretty cool use of it, because when I was writing this stuff, a lot of it to me kind of felt like there's like kind of like a, not really sad, but like more like a melancholy or like nostalgic kind of like bittersweet vibe to a lot of it. And, a lot of the paranormal stuff it's at least as sad kind of as it is scary. So it's not all just like, or like, oh, I feel a thing. Sometimes it's like, oh, something happened here. And like, you getting this residual vibe or whatever. So that's really cool. I like that a lot.
See, a lot of people, and I'm sorry, folks, we're not getting off subject, but I love paranormal. This is my other hobby that I do. Cool. A lot of folks that they're in it for the scare factor, that awe factor, but
right.
I'm in it for all of it. I love the history factors of all these locations, because if I want to know the history,
sure.
Because if you make contact with somebody of that name or whatever there, that's pretty fucking awesome.
I think, I'm not a big believer necessarily in the supernatural, but I do think the paranormal history aspect of it is really interesting, and the experiences that people have, versus the whatever events have taken place there, and sort of the psychological correlation. I think is something that's really interesting, and it's just something it's an aspect of it that I guess for me, as somebody that's more of a hard realist, that I find really interesting. And it's like the phenomena can be very real. It's not necessarily metaphysical. And I find that sort of, I don't know, that's the part that sort of gets me up in the morning,
Man, there's some stuff that we've captured that even makes my jaw drop. I just like, how did this, how, why, I don't, it's very interesting to me. And I absolutely love it when you can research the history and you find something that ties to that history in your evidence that you go back and look at. It's really cool.
Nice.
So was there a song for this EP that totally ended up sounding different than what it was intended to? Was there one that kept changing for you, or no?
I think, well, the last song, Vanishing Point, it's funny. That's actually like a song that I had written, like, or I shouldn't say so. It was a theme that I had written something like 12 years ago.
Wow.
And I didn't really have anything. I just didn't know what to do with it. And I had tried a couple different iterations of it, just digging around, through the years. I would sort of come back to it, like, I wonder if I can do anything with this. I'm like, nope, still doesn't work. And so I had really imagined it as almost more like a pure like post rock kind of like, I don't know if you ever listen to like Mogwai or Destroy You or Explosions in the Sky. Like that was sort of how I imagined it in the beginning. And as I was working on this EP, I finally found something that clicked with this piece of music that had sort of just been, in my files that I kept revisiting. And I was like, damn it. It's just, I was like, wow, I'm glad I held on to this, because now, now it's a thing that I really like, it finally found a home,
See, it pays you to save all that stuff. And I've heard people say they've had stuff for 20 years and it finally makes an album to this day. It's crazy on how, just like you said, at that time it doesn't fit, but you never know down the road, boom, there's a big hit right there.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like every time I start writing a record, and I'm like, that I'm like seriously like, okay, shit, we need to like get some songs written. I always go back through. I just have like files and files of tablature. I call it the riff warehouse. I'm like, is there anything in here that's gonna, like, be used? And sometimes I'll have a riff just sitting there for years, and then it's just like, oh, perfect, I found the perfect spot for it, man. So I'm like, this is kind of what started me on this whole journey of like composition, was just writing everything that I came up with down and just saving it. And it's paid off so far.
Any songs that didn't make this EP we're going to see later on down the road, maybe, or just stashed back for something else?
No, really. I think with Vanishing Point, that was the last one where I was kind of like feeling like, well, this might be a little slight for an EP. And, I don't know. I'm a big believer in the power of the subconscious, because it's like a lot of times, I put it away, then I go to sleep. And then a day or two later, I'll wake up and be like, wait a second, there you go. And I was like, whatever happened to that piece? So, but it's also the kind of thing that I feel like, if somebody were to hit me up and be like, I really like this, can you come up with a bunch more of it? And here's some money, that I could definitely come up with some more. But again, because I'm not working on a thing where someone's paying me for it, or there's a label with a financial stake in it, or even a scheduling stake in it, I just sort of wrote until I was done. And I was like, okay, I think I'm done. Like, this is good. This is a good amount, So in your own opinion, working on these EPs for you, what's been the toughest or the best song that you've written so far, in your own opinion? I mean, I know these are your babies. I totally get it. but which one for you has been that toughest one or best one so far? It's funny, because usually the ones that I think are the best tend not to be other people's favorites. And they also tend to be the ones that come together the easiest.
Yeah.
The ones that are the toughest, a lot of times other people like those more, but the ones that I like are the ones that sort of just come out. And I think that the song on this record, Parted Hearts, was something that I forget. I was just reading about some sort of harmonic, like, chord structure thing, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And I'm a terrible piano player, but I just sort of banged out some chords on piano, and I was like, oh shit, that's what that was talking about. And it was like, then I had the main melody, and then it was like, by the end of the night, I had a 75% done version of the song. And I love that whole, I think it's a good melody, number one, and it's the one that sort of gets biggest in terms of just the orchestration, which is kind of, I can't help but like that more. But I love when something comes to you and it's like done, and it's just up to you. You already know the whole thing, and then it's up to you to just to build that, and it works the way that you think it's going to. Because usually, as I'm building it, then it doesn't work the way I think, and I have to go and solve a bunch of musical problems, which is, it's fun, but it's not quite as rewarding,
God, you could be your own worst enemy, man, at this. You know that.
I mean, you have to be, especially writing a record like this, because I don't have any fucking bandmates to tell me that when my ideas suck.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's very important. Like, you got to have somebody there that you trust and is, well enough that they can be like, no, dude, that sucks. Don't do that. That's your best friend.
Is the track listing placement important for these EP releases, or no?
I think it's more important, honestly, for a metal album, and especially because this is just an internet release. It feels less bound to that, whereas if you put on a record, that's when I think, especially listening to records and cassettes, that's when it really feels important, because it's not that easy to skip. And, you want to have like an ebb and flow to the whole thing. So it's always important, but it's less important just because of the format. If it was coming out on LP, I would probably revisit the track order and just make sure that I thought it was the right one, because I thought it was when I put it online, but I would definitely double check on LP, because that's when it has to work,
Yeah, for sure. Because there's only like so much time you can put on it. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I love, I love the fact that the format of the LP, the physical limitations of the long playing 12-inch record that has been the industry standard, since my dad was a kid, that has sort of shaped how we think about music and how we consume music, how we listen to music, how our attention spans have been molded by that. We're sort of programmed to think in terms of 19-minute sides, so anything longer than 48 minutes is just like, that's too long. But really that's like totally arbitrary, because you can have a record that's fucking 10 minutes, and that's perfect. It's done everything it needs to do. It doesn't need to be 40 minutes. Or conversely, you could have a really long, expansive piece of music, like something like The Planets by Holst or whatever, and it's like a fucking hour long. It's and that's perfect. So it trips me out how the physical limitations of the format inform kind of our tastes.
Are we going to get any more releases from you? Are you going to be working on more stuff down the road, possibly?
Yeah, definitely. I have a couple things that I've been working on. One of them I think is pretty close to being finished. The other one is a little bit further away. And I also have tons of compositions in various stages looking for kind of thematic homes. I don't want to just be like, hey, I got this one song with this vibe. Like, here it is. I want to give people something to chew on that's at least, 15, 20 minutes of stuff. So, but the great thing is because, this release has gone pretty well and it's all just me. Like I'm going to just continue sort of, just doing my shit, whatever that might be,
All right. These next few questions, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get to know Matt just as Matt, not Matt from Exhumed or anything like that. We're going to get to know him personally, his music knowledge here. So this could be a good thing or a bad thing. We'll see. If you could write an album equivalent to your favorite band's album, which album would that be? Which album would you want to come close to writing, possibly?
I think Master of Puppets is the perfect. I think it's a perfect record beyond being a perfect metal record, because like we were saying, with the track order and the ebb and flow and the amount of ground that they cover on that record, from the sort of, downbeat acoustic and clean guitar stuff to the sort of expansive, almost like psychedelic-ish stuff in Orion, with, of course, the faster, like thrashier stuff, the really heavy, powerful stuff like Leper Messiah or whatever. I think it's a perfect mix of doing a lot of different things, but it's still really cohesive. And the way that the ride that it takes you on just feels natural. It's like, oh, this is how an album's supposed to go. You come out all guns blazing, then you're able to sort of bring it down and control the mood, go in some interesting places while still giving you punches of power, and then build up into something really explosive at the end, and then be like, see ya. And all you want to do is like turn it over and listen to it again. It's perfect.
The ebb and flow of that album is just so fucking good. I mean, it's like peaks and valleys, and like you said, dude, when you put that in and that first song doesn't get you going, there's something wrong with you.
I mean, I have to think I can't be the first. Do you ask everybody these questions? These last ones?
Yes, sir. Yes,
I
sir.
can't be the first person that said that, right?
No, you're not the only one, and actually, honestly, Matt, that album, and I'm glad that you mentioned Master of Puppets, because that album solely saved my life. I would not be sitting here today without that album, because it was my voice, it was me getting out my anger. The album just did everything for me. I mean, it took everything out of me that I need to say and do. It did it for me.
I find that an incredibly relatable statement.
So, I mean, it's just a fucking, like you said, it's a perfect metal album, and I'll fight anybody over
that. I won't fight you if you don't think it's perfect. I'll just be sad for you. It's like, man,
yeah, you're missing out on something that's a musical masterpiece. Honestly,
yeah, it really is. I'm very fortunate in that was like the first kind of heavier metal record that I ever heard. And it's universally acclaimed and it's sold truckloads of records for a reason. And I just happened to like stumble upon, I went from listening to, like Ozzy and Twisted Sister and Wasp and Dio. And then I heard that and I was like, wow, I was really lucky that the first thing I heard just happened to be like the best one. It's like, oh, okay, cool.
Think about this though. I'm 45. I know you're probably in your 40s, probably
48.
So,
yeah.
so think about this. That album's what, 30, 40 years old, and it's still making an impact today, dude.
I mean, just whatever it was a year and a half ago, when it was on Stranger Things and people discovered it, I was like, it's somehow this record is still. I'm just like, who the fuck hasn't heard this yet? But the fact that so many people heard it for the first time were like, holy shit, this is awesome. And they're like, wait, this is what metal is? Like, I didn't know like that it was actually like super sick. I mean, that album changed. I mean, I guarantee you thousands and thousands of people's lives, I thought I was going to be a comic book artist when I grew up. And then I heard that album and I was like, all right, I'm selling my comics and buying guitars. So there you go.
Yeah. And I mean, I know we're going on here about this, but I mean, it absolutely showed how Cliff's musicianship on the bass was absolutely way ahead of his time. Ahead of his time.
It's a very uncontroversial opinion, but hey, it's orthodoxy for a reason.
We're going to throw Exhumed out the door here. Like I said, it's about you here on this one. If you could be a member in an iconic band and play one of their legendary shows, which band would it be and what show would it be possibly?
Huh. It's going to sound horrible, but I would probably choose it by like which band is going to get the most chicks, like so maybe like, I don't know, you'd be like Motley Crue in like 84 or something, just because the after party of that night would be so legendary that the show would be secondary. Like, yeah, whatever. I got through the songs. It's all good. But there's like, 14 hot blondes over here that like, Tommy and Nikki, they were at capacity. So I'll just take their overflow and it's going to be great. And,
Yeah. So. Y'all come over here.
Don't worry. There's plenty of cocaine for everybody, honey. Come on down.
Come on over to daddy. Come on over to daddy. What's been your most memorable show that you've been a part of that you still cannot believe to this day that you were?
I think, it's hard to pick just one. But I guess one that sticks out in my mind is like Repulsion is one of my absolute favorite bands. And when I got a chance to play with them in, like the mid aughts, I guess it was like 2005 to 2008 or something. I don't know. I played in the band for like 4 or 5 years. So it was great just getting to play my favorite songs. But we did this show in LA at this fest called Murder Fest that they used to have. And it was a small fest, but the room we played, it was like you could not have gotten another person in there with a shoehorn. And the whole show was just nothing but stage diving. And one of the stagehands was an old buddy of mine who also loved Repulsion. And so it would be like, we'd play and I'm playing my favorite songs and we're playing great. We're firing on all cylinders. People are losing their fucking shit. And it's like, you're in the experience with the crowd the whole time. And then I would go back to like, get a beer or whatever, towel off or whatever. And then you got like your old buddy right there, like, yeah, dude, like hugging you or whatever. It was just like, everything was just working perfectly at that show. Cause usually like you have a great show or whatever, but you're always like, oh yeah, but my cable broke or like, my hand was a little stiff or just whatever. Or you're like, I got in a fight with my girlfriend and I was thinking about her, just, there's always something, but that show, there was just nothing. And it was just, it was a perfect fucking gig.
All right, Matt, how can folks stay in touch with you? Pick up this EP of yours, Toward the Cold Light. How can you do that?
The EP is on my Bandcamp, and I can never remember if it's if the artist name goes before bandcamp.com or after, but the artist name is Matt Harvey Must Be Destroyed. That's my name, Must Be Destroyed. That's also my Instagram handle. You can follow me there. But it's on Bandcamp and it's free. So if you think it sucks, you're only out, your time. If you think it's great, then go ahead and download it. And, if you want to throw a couple bucks at me, I wouldn't be above that. But if you just want to grab it, that's also great too. And of course, you can always follow one of my other bands, be it Exhumed or Gruesome or Left to Die or whomever, on social media. We have a whole web store, which is under our studio name, which is Darker Corners. It's darkercorners.myshopify.com. So you can get shirts and records and all that shit. And, sign up for our mailing list and find out about tours and all that good stuff. So yeah, I'm around.
I will have this link in this podcast when it goes live. So that way people can click on it, go right to it. So that way you can help Matt. Just give it a listen, folks. It's really good. If you like horror stuff, related to ambient stuff, I mean, it's great. Just don't take my word for it. God, I kind of sound like Mr. Rogers. Or like the Reading Rainbow guy. Just don't take my word for it, honestly. Just go listen to it, pick it up. Everybody stick around. We got some great stuff coming up on BODS Mayhem Hour, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour. Please go check out our YouTube page, and if you like what I do, please go subscribe. If you do, I would appreciate it because it makes me feel good, folks. I love bringing these interviews to you all because if I don't get the big numbers, guess what? I don't get these artists on here, but that's not the point. The point is just getting people on here to talk about their music. So somebody's got to be their voice. Matt, thank you so much for doing this interview with me, and you're welcome back anytime you want to.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you, man.
You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.